Cold War Zombies, known for many things, the beginning of a new storyline, new operators, a whole new perk system, a new system to upgrade gear, and Outbreak. So with all this new content and being released not too long ago, why did it die so quickly? Numbers don't lie, so let's figure this out. Cold War was released November 13th, 2020. Cold War was such a big success for two reasons. One, it was actually a good game, and two, most people were indoors playing games because of a certain Mexican beer, so therefore more people were buying and playing Cold War Zombies. New and old fans tried out this new version of Zombies. Cold War Zombies was a breath of fresh air to the community at launch. Cold War was a bit buggy with only one map for Zombies being Die Machine, with a revamped take on COD Zombies with an all-new Pack-a-Punch system, the first time armor system appeared in a Triax Zombies game, operators instead of a set cast. Grenades and other equipment have had the biggest buff since Black Ops 4. You can now buy support like you can in multiplayer. You can also buy ammo from ammo supplies, and most of all, this Zombies game was the best versions of Zombies, including as many as possible multiplayer features without ruining the Zombies feel. You can get camos and levels you can gain in Zombies carry over to the multiplayer, which is a really good way to get the average player more involved in Zombies, because if you weren't the biggest fan of Zombies, well, at least you're leveling up your gun while you're playing Zombies, so when you hopped in multiplayer, your gun was leveled up. So with all these new features, it brought so many new players to the Zombies community, which was really good in the short term. The launch of Cold War Zombies was pretty decent. Die Machine was a good map with a fun wonder weapon, with a deep and enjoyable upgrading process, a pretty good Easter egg, a bit on the easy side though, but was buggy at release, and only having one map is never a good sign. But luckily we were promised more maps in the newer seasons. This was the beginning of a glorious game, but the cracks did start to glean through. Though the more veterans of this mode played it, realized how easy this version of Zombie was. Probably the easiest. Great for casual players, but not for us who wanted to actually be challenged. Can get to round 935 in the spawn room, your game may be a little too easy. With unlimited revives in solo, chopper gunners, tomahawks having infinite damage, so it's just a less cool health retriever, and super easy Easter egg, the game basically walks you through it. But the community for the time being was with these new features. Then Outbreak released, and most of the round-based community was not happy with it being too much of a departure from traditional Zombies. But the casual part of the community enjoyed it because it was like Warzone, and at the time Warzone was one of the most popular games and still is to this day. So things were beginning to not look great, but with the release of Firebase C, it calmed down the community a little bit. But Firebase C really wasn't that good of a map, but the community's opinions didn't sour toward this map too quickly. But probably the best thing we got from this map was a Ray K. Such a cool version of the ray gun, one of my favorites to be honest. And the main Easter egg on this map is super annoying, with the mimic step also. Over this time and until the end of Cold War, Outbreak was constantly receiving new updates and constantly receiving new content, making the casual community happier and bringing in some of the hardcore community with it, with all new objectives, new maps, etc. And it was just more content, so no one was complaining. Then came Toten, and the community really liked this map. Probably one of the best maps from Cold War, holds up probably the best to this day for a couple of reasons. One, the boss fight was actually hard and not a snooze fest, and the Easter egg steps were not easy. There were actually stakes while you were doing them. Class, which was a side AI which you could get, which was like the Several Protector from Black Ops 3. More content, and I love the one weapon on this map, feeling very cool and unique. And I think the round-based community wasn't thankful enough for how much Treyarch actually tried to give both sides of the community what they wanted with round-based and objective-based. Then finally in the life cycle we got Forsaken, which was such a disappointment to a pretty decent game. This is the only map in Cold War apart from Outbreak that I haven't done the Easter egg for. I just don't like this map, to be honest. Only thing I could say that is good or unique about this map is the spawn room. Unlike a usual spawn room, the more time you spend in there, the more rounds you go through, so it is a really good way to get your game to round 10 quickly so you don't have to waste your time for the early rounds. So then the end of Cold War update cycle, and the update cycle has been about a year, so Vanguard has dropped and it failed pretty badly, but
my disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
A lot of casual players went to play it anyway, taken away from Cold War player base. And now if we skip another year into the future, MW 2022 has just recently launched, and it is one of COD's best sellers. So a small amount of casual players who are playing Cold War Zombies moved on to MW2, further dwindling the players count. Down so low it is almost impossible to find lobbies unless you play on a weekend, and this is where Cold War fell from grace. Once most of the casual players left Cold War, the majority of players were hardcore players. Unlike older Treyarch zombie games, the hardcore players, the high rounders, the speedrunners really didn't latch onto this game. For one reason or another, there are more people playing Black Ops 3 right now. So an average of about 6,000 people a day playing Black Ops 3, and let's just assume for sake of argument that it's half of those players that are playing zombies, and we can assume that it's more, but let's just say it's half. So that would be about 3,000, and Cold War active is about 1,000, and let's just for sake of argument say it's half as well. Well, that would dwindle it down to 500. So if we're looking at 3,500, and Black Ops 3 released 9 years ago and Cold War released 3 years ago, there is a big issue there. Now, it might be unfair to compare it to Black Ops 3, but that's the golden standard in my opinion. There are more people playing older zombie titles than Cold War zombies. The reason Cold War zombies fell from grace is two major reasons. One, because Cold War zombies has no soul. When you set your mind back to World at War or Black Ops 1, what do you think of? You think of the characters we laughed at and with, like Nikolai, Tank Dempsey, Rick Toten, Thankyou, those funny quotes.
This looks like fun! I'm still better off than with the Arasaka. Amazing! Hey, player! I need more ammo or we're going down! Die, Schwein! I think we need to do something about the power.
We could all laugh at that, we could all enjoy it, we thought it was funny. But with Cold War we had operators, there was no soul to this. I understand why Activision did it, because the big overlords at Activision wanted all the money they could get, and the devs probably weren't allowed to set cast, but it takes away from the soul. And if you also look at older titles, for example World at War, the maps. Noct was a military base, then Vrak an insane asylum, Shimanuma a military base set in a swamp, and Doris a 1145 facility, all being very different atmospheres and maps to each other. But Cold War is military base, military base, military base, and oh yeah, military base. If you have less atmosphere than the first Zombies game, you have a problem on your hands. There is no huge difference in between each map in Cold War Zombies. It just feels like the same map with a different coat of paint and a different layout. And Cold War's second major flaw was it pondered too much to the casual players, and they didn't offer enough challenge in one way or another to the hardcore community. For example, BO3, the golden standard, released with Shadows of Evil, super hard and difficult, but also released the Giant, a cult classic and very basic and simple. Then came Dreisendracht, being fairly easy to turn on power and pack, yet being deeper with the bows. Zetsubo Mishima and Grad Kravi releasing pretty close to each other, one being very complicated, whilst one feeling like it belonged in World at War. Unlike Cold War, where it was just easy and super casual, the Easter eggs were the easiest to do by far, which is good to a degree, but at the same time also a fatal flaw. And once the update cycle was over, hardcore community started to despise 5AC and Forsaken. I think 5AC gets a bit too much hate, but Forsaken is warranted in my opinion. And Outbreak is a bloodbath. Half the people love it, and half the people wish it never launched, further splitting the community. Cold War Zombies was just too casual, and that was its fatal flaw, its greatest strength, greatest weakness. But do you agree with me, disagree with me, do you like Outbreak or not? Let me know down in the comments below.